All right, we are back in the garage as you can see. So, Streetcar Takeover got canceled because of rain, and then the next weekend we went to Bristol Street Fights. We did our usual get there early, kick it off the trailer. We got to be the first car down the track, and the track was way, way, way better than we've had at all this year. So we went ahead and ordered some 10-inch wide wheels to put the 9-inch wide Pro Bracket radials on. To try to stiffen up the sidewall, we noticed it was wrinkling up really bad. So we wanted to switch over to that. And we actually got to make another... it was a fairly slow pass, to be honest with you, with what we know the car's capable of. It's been, a low 9 already. But that first pass off the trailer, we had it turned down pretty far because we're not used to the track being that great. So, yeah, we'll put in some footage right here of us making that pass. And as you can see, another mid 9-second pass, but stayed in it all the way to the floor. The car didn't move around, didn't do any shimmy shake, nothing stupid, and everything worked out great. Now we had one big issue. It rained as soon as we made that pass. We had just whipped it right around back to the staging lanes, and we were just going to go ahead and make another pass. But I had Ashley, my wife, and my buddy Scotty, who helps us out a lot, bring me the laptop to the staging lanes, and we were looking in there, and when we went and had the car dynoed, Pete told me we were kind of getting there on fuel. We're kind of, my fuel pressure has never rose 1 to 1, which I know it should. But I went ahead and I put 8 pounds on the scramble button to add 8 pounds of dome pressure, which netted me 4 more pounds of boost, and the fuel pressure went in the tank. So let's look at some of that data real fast, and then we'll come right back. Okay, and here is the data from that pass. And so, real quick, this blue line here is going to be our fuel pressure. This pink line is the injector duty cycle. The yellow is boost. This kind of a darker color here is where I jump on the scramble button. And then let's turn off this back pressure one because we don't need it for what we're talking about. So we come off the line, and right here is everything's kind of how it has been. So this is where when we took the car over to Pete's and had it dynoed, we're right around that 21-pound mark where it made just over 700 to the wheel. And the car was hooked up good and going straight, so I jumped on the scramble. And as soon as I jumped on that scramble button, you will see the fuel pressure just completely tanks. And on my dash, this is one of the few warnings that I don't have um, set up good enough, obviously, because our closed loop compensation um, jumped up to 30%. And thankfully, this saved us from blowing up the motor. But we were right on the edge. Our duty cycle goes as high as I think out here, yeah, 96%. That is no bueno. We don't want that to ever be above 80. Um, so yeah, you can see we're just out of fuel pump. So that 4303 only got us to a little over 700. So hopefully with the new pump, um, we're not going to run into these issues for a long time again. So yeah, these are important things to look at when you're making passes and you're looking at data and you're kind of determining what's what, especially on a boosted application or something like that. Fuel pressure is a big thing. When that fuel pressure goes away and that injector duty cycle runs up, if this thing didn't have the Bosch 220s in it, um, there's a good chance we probably would have been putting pistons or a new set of heads or worse on this thing. So yeah, always keep an eye on your uh, fuel pressure and your duty cycle for sure. It'll help you see when problems like this are getting ready to come your way. So. And it looks like that is going to be the limit of our fuel system. Now this thing is being fed with two 8ANs out of the stock tank, which I sumped, and fed to a MagnaFuel pre-filter to a MagnaFuel 4303, and it is -10 and then splits back to 2/8 to feed each rail individually. So we don't have any more pump to make any more horsepower, so we're going to have to remedy that. Thankfully, I've got some great family, and yeah, without them, this next part definitely wouldn't be happening. So this thing is getting ready to get an Aeromotive 5.0. We got the variable speed one because this is a little punk motor and we don't need that much fuel while we're cruising it around on the street and stuff. So we'll be able to turn that down to about 30%. Sorry if the rain starts getting loud. I do have a tin roof on this shop. So the other thing is the weather looks like crap again for this weekend. So not going to get to go racing again. So we had ordered a Holley IO module, and it looks like it has finally shipped. So that drive shaft sensor, where we've been having issues with the dash not passing through the data properly, no longer going to be an issue. We're going to get that thing wired up. We're going to we have one spare output on the ECU that we will wire into a relay to trigger the fuel pump to go full tilt boogie. And yeah, on the IO module, I think I do still have a lock up torque converter. We don't lock it up when we're racing or nothing. It is only a single disc billet, so we can't do that. But I'm gonna mess with the table to automatically do that. My fans and my water pump have just been on switches inside the car, which I will show you here. Right down here. So this has always been my torque converter lockup, my water pump, my radiator fans, and my trans fan. So we're going to go ahead and wire all of that up into the IO module as well, and try to automate some of this stuff. Rain sounds like it's getting ready to pick up, so let's drain this fuel system and get ready to get some work done. So that's what not enough fuel looks like. So we're gonna start getting some of our wiring ready for when our fuel pump arrives to try to spread some of this workload out on us. So the Aeromotive 5.0 has a variable speed controller built into it, at least the one that I bought does. Now it is meant to hook up to a 0 to 5 volt wire, so depending on what voltage it sees, it ups the speed on the pump. Well, on our ECU, the only way that we have to do that would be to tie into something like the TPS, and I've heard that that can cause some issues with the Holley stuff, and I'm just not willing to deal with it. So what we're gonna do instead is it's okay to put 12 volts to that wire. So we're gonna set up an output that anything over 3 pounds of boost and I'm over 50% throttle, it's automatically gonna turn the pump on. Well, we also end up with a problem there because on the Terminator X, all we get are ground outputs. So how do we do that? Well, we're just going to use a 5-pin relay. I just happen to have one. You can do this with a 4-pin. So if you're looking at one of these sockets and you don't know how to wire this terminal here, there's a straight one on the relay. And so if you hook, whatever you hook this to is going to get passed through this relay in one of two manners. If you have a 5-pin, this middle pin right here, that is going to have whatever we have put here. So if you've hooked ground here, you're going to get ground out of that middle pin when the relay is not active. And then when you activate it, it's going to turn off on this leg. The very top leg from that is going to be normally open. So yet again, if we put ground here, we will have nothing when the relay is not active, but when it turns on, we're going to get ground here. So in our case, we're going to hook this blue wire here on our straight terminal to 12 volts. And then we are going to hook this yellow wire to our Aeromotive pump. The two opposite terminals of that are our power and ground for the coil to actually activate the relay. So with the Holley, since we only get ground, we're gonna hook this white wire up to 12 volts constant source. We will put a fuse in this, and then we are going to tie our output to this black wire to trigger the relay. So 12 volts, the Holley triggers this, and then this will be hooked to hot as well. And so when that relay is triggered, we're gonna get 12 volts out of this wire to activate our pump. This can come in handy in several scenarios. So yeah. All right, we are back to doing some work. I've been a little wore out, so progress is slowed. We're actually taking this weekend off. We could go to the track, but we're gonna get some stuff done. As you can see, I have this up on some ramps up here. The back right now is just supported by jack stands. So contacted my suspension guy, and for lack of a better word, he told me to quit being a wussy and hit this thing with some RPM and turn the boost down and, you know, wrap it in that way. So we're gonna make a bar change on the rear to get our instant center a little bit shorter, which is gonna raise the anti-squat value, which will hopefully help us out. While we were down here as well, the last time we went out to the track, we actually did have some overheating issues. So we got the Chinese fans off and put a pair of spalls on. We'll throw some video clip in right here for that. And as you can see, that is a huge difference. So hopefully that takes care of any of our cooling problems. So for now, we are gonna climb under this thing, and we are going to change the bars on the baseline suspension relocated uppers, reset our pinion angle, and that's where these guys come into play, is setting that, and we're gonna string it up and make sure we get the rear end back centered in the car. So stick around. All right, we have our bar change done. So you saw in there, I actually changed these plates on these relocated uppers. I changed those plates because I needed to move to plate number 2 to get the numbers that we were looking for. So all of that is done. We should be good to go there. One thing that I do, I don't know if any of y'all are gonna do this or if you have a similar setup, and I don't know if it matters, so if somebody knows, let me know. But when I'm tightening down my jam nuts on these double adjusters, I take my time and kind of go back and forth. I found that if I tighten one down first, that the control arms seem like they bind up a little bit. So like right now, we got plenty of movement here. Even in the diagonal link for centering the rear end, we got plenty of nice movement. Same thing on this bar. So everything's nice and free. Nothing should bind here. So yeah, bar change done, and we got the new fans on. I'm going to put a little bit bigger of an overflow can. The car didn't overheat or anything. Just when it got to about 200 degrees, it started puking some water out. So I don't have a expansion tank. We just use a catch can. So we're gonna put a little bit bigger of a catch can on the car, and I think we'll be ready to go.